ready to fly.
I'm off the chain.
Get ready to fly.
Time to go against the grain. I'm off the chain. Never gonna be the same.
A couple of months ago, Impact Wrestling celebrated their 1,000th episode of their weekly flagship program, which is a challenge to do if you're not named WWE. And they also recently announced that in the new year of 2024, they will once again rebrand by returning to their former moniker of Total Nonstop Action, TNA Wrestling. And as someone who has recently placed watching Impact back into my wrestling rotation for the first time since late 2013, I thought I'd give myself a challenge of my own, and that is for the next month, rewatch some good and not so well received matches and or feuds that I haven't seen in years. And what better way to start than by stepping back into the interesting year that was 2011, especially in pop culture, from Charlie Sheen's infamous meltdown to Beyonce announcing that she was pregnant with Blue Ivy, which shifted the status quo of a lot of things depending on who you ask. And in the world of professional wrestling, we were in the height of heel Michael Cole on commentary, and the WWE itself having arguably the worst WrestleMania emanating at the now demolished Georgia Dome in Atlanta. We need a redo, WWE. I stand on that notion. And over in TNA, the company was still in the height of their decision of bringing in Hulk Hogan to steer the company into the future. He steered it somewhere, all right, nearly into the ground for good. And even though TNA from 2010 to 2011 made some very, very strange choices, I feel like there was also some forgotten gems during this time period, and that includes the Ironman match at 2011's Final Resolution pay-per-view, where two former stablemates clashed over the TNA World Heavyweight Championship with 30 minutes placed on the clock. Where at this point, we've already seen the highly regarded Iron Man matches from the WWE, Bret vs. Shawn in '96, Brock vs. Angle in 2003, and Cena vs. Orton in 2009, just to name a few. And on this December night in 2011, at the final pay-per-view of the year, the phenomenal AJ Styles and Bobby Roode left it all out there, racing to score the most falls to secure the victory and the World Heavyweight Championship. So today I'm going to sit back, relax, and see if I can legitimately consider the TNA World Championship Iron Man match between AJ Styles and Bobby Roode a forgotten gem. But before we do that, let's take a brief look at how we got to this point. On the November 3rd, 2011 edition of TNA Impact Wrestling from Macon, Georgia, Bobby Roode, fresh off of losing to Kurt Angle at Bound for Glory under dubious circumstances, challenged his Beer Money tag team partner and new TNA World Heavyweight Champion, the Cowboy James Storm, in the main event. And they built this up quite nicely, and after a solid back and forth contest, Roode betrayed Storm by smashing a beer bottle over his head and shattered Storm's title reign and their friendship in the process by becoming the new TNA World Heavyweight Champion. And with this win, Roode officially kicked off the selfish generation, where he was done doing things the right way. Storm had a rematch scheduled but was assaulted backstage, and despite doctors being against it, James Storm stumbled his way to the main event, but he lost so much blood and passed out he couldn't finish the match. Roode feigned caring about him before rolling him up to retain the title. Following the match, a furious AJ Styles demanded to face Roode for the title at TNA Turning Point, which was granted by General Manager Sting for 3 days later. The time came for Turning Point, where AJ Styles was out to get revenge for James Storm, and on the same night, Roode verified that Beer Money was dead and Fortune 4 was no more. And after a solid main event, Roode remained the world champion after grabbing the tights of Styles, meaning that this was far from over. On the Fallout edition of Impact, after retaining the world title at Turning Point, Roode kicked off the show to gloat in the fact that his reign as World Heavyweight Champion continues, before getting cut off by his since recovered former tag team partner James Storm, demanding to know why Roode jumped him from behind in Macon the week prior. Roode denied jumping him, and Storm vowed that he was going to find out who jumped him and was going to whoop his ass because he was guilty by association. Despite this proclamation, Storm was held back by a wall of security, but Roode has enemies everywhere. And from behind, AJ Styles was waiting on Roode and a pull-apart brawl ensued. Styles demanded one more shot at hurting Roode for what he did to him, but Roode denied that because he doesn't have stroke around here and said he could beat Styles all night long. General Manager Sting took him up on his idea and made the rematch official at Final Resolution with 30 minutes on the clock in an Ironman match, which infuriated Roode, who confronted Dixie Carter at ringside and attacked Styles, who came to her defense, continuing to paint Roode as this man who's desperate to keep his hold over the World Heavyweight title. We eventually found out who attacked James Storm. It was Kurt Angle, who assaulted the Cowboy in the most 2011 fit I've ever seen in my life, and that practically moved Storm out of the picture for the time being. On the Thanksgiving edition of Impact, Styles and Roode clashed with each other briefly in an 8-man elimination tag, but that was cut short after Roode got himself intentionally disqualified with a low blow on Styles, which AJ and Jeff Hardy would go on to win for their team. But Roode wasn't done with AJ, who laid out both men with the title belt before standing tall over a fallen AJ Styles, proclaiming that he can't beat him. As they continued to build to the match, they had Roode's family and friends talk about how he's not around anymore and how he's leaving them with more questions than answers with how he's cheating to win. And as punishment for his actions, Sting forced Roode to suffer the consequences by facing both Jeff Hardy and Styles in a triple threat match on the December 1st episode of Impact, which Roode survived thanks to Jeff Jarrett. On the final edition of Impact before Final Resolution, Sting forced Roode to publicly apologize to Dixie Carter for putting his hands on her a couple of weeks ago, and he apologized for not being honest with her instead, and he went on to belittle her and told her she couldn't run a wrestling company. I mean, he's not wrong. But that infuriated Sting, but Dixie held him back and let him finish before Roode turned around and spat in the face of Dixie before running away as a means to saying he spat in the face of authority. Later on in the main event, Roode teamed with Jeff Jarrett to take on Styles and Jeff Hardy, and while Hardy and Jarrett eventually wandered off, it came down to Roode and Styles in the ring with the champion targeting Styles' knee. But that came back to bite him when Styles got the upset pin on Roode just days before the match, which obviously upset the champion. But that didn't last as Styles had the champion running. But Styles made a big mistake, and that was turning his back to celebrate, which left him open to a chop block from behind. And after this attack, the stage was now set for the Ironman match. And I'll be honest, the build wasn't all that great, but my interest in the talent kept me going throughout the making of this, so let's hope the match supersedes the build-up. It is now time, 30 minutes, Ironman match for the World Heavyweight title at Final Resolution. After a somewhat lackluster build, we have finally reached TNA Final Resolution, and it's time for the main event. 30 minutes will be placed on the clock with the TNA World Heavyweight Championship up for grabs. Will Bobby Roode's obsession with remaining champion help him score more points? Or will AJ Styles live up to his Grand Slam moniker and out-wrestle the self-proclaimed it factor of professional wrestling in phenomenal fashion? Let's find out. The first fall was pretty much a filling out process for the first couple of minutes. The story they were telling was, would AJ Styles' injured knee come into play as he had it taped up prior to the opening bell? After about 5 minutes eclipsed the clock, Roode started taking a step back because he soon realized that injured or not, Styles wasn't about to be easy to take down, and he started attempting everything to take down the former world champ. As the time eclipsed 10 minutes, the pain in the knee of AJ was beginning to come into play despite many attempts to out-wrestle the champion, and after landing on that leg one too many times, it came back to bite Styles. Roode took advantage, clipped the knee, and rolled up Styles to score the first fall. The second fall picked up right where the first one ended, with Roode focusing heavily on the injured leg, but Styles kept fighting back despite the pain, and every time Styles had a comeback, Roode was right there to add more damage to the knee. As the time reached the 15 minutes remaining, Roode continued his focus on the knee, eventually locking in the figure 4, and despite his best efforts to hang on, Styles had no other choice but to tap out, awarding the second fall to the World Heavyweight Champion. The third fall started off with Roode just prancing around the ring as he knows he's got this one in the bag, continuing to target the knee. Roode's arrogance came back to bite him as when Styles pushed Roode off of him, the champ's arm and shoulder connected with the turnbuckle, and Styles connected with a flatliner type move and immediately locked in a crossface, forcing the champion to tap out to get himself on the scoreboard. After a moment's rest, the referee let them loose and AJ continued to focus on the arm, while at times Roode focused on the knee, while also utilizing his power advantage over Styles as the time reached 10 minutes remaining on the clock. But Styles then caught Roode slipping into a schoolboy roll-up to get a surprise pin and secure the fall, tying it at 2 apiece. Despite that surprise roll-up, Roode maintained his dominance and target of Styles' injured knee, while Roode's damaged arm was Styles' continued focus. As the clock reached 7 minutes, Styles found a way to fight through the pain and somehow connect with a springboard 450 to score the pin and break the tie, taking the score to 3-2. At this point, the Iron Man has reached its crunch time where it's 5 minutes remaining on the clock, and that lead that AJ had didn't really last long as Styles attempted a sunset flip powerbomb, but Roode caught him and held onto the top rope out of sight of the official to score the fall, tying the score once again at 3 apiece. It is definitely crunch time as both men tried their damnedest to score that deciding fall as time continues to count down. AJ finally caught Roode with a Pele as they got the 2-minute warning. Styles was fired up and attempted to go for the Styles Clash, but his knee just buckled as Roode stumbles to the floor, confusing everyone as to why he's not capitalizing on breaking the tie. Styles then connected with a nice tope, and Styles tried his best to get Roode in the ring, and it became a cat and mouse until the time ran out, ending the match in a 3-3 draw. Therefore, because of this, Bobby Roode retains the World Heavyweight title by default, and instead of doing a sudden death on the pay-per-view, they went off the air. So what now? Yes, let's check out Impact. On the Fallout edition of TNA Impact Wrestling, they decided to have the sudden death 5-minute overtime match for the World Heavyweight Championship kick off the show. So the paying customers, huh? I mean, I get the cliffhanger to get you to watch the next episode, but I can't lie, I'd still probably be heated if that was the match I paid for and it ended in a draw. Once the bell rung, Roode tried to waste more time, but Styles had that very well scouted and took the fight to the champion immediately. There were a couple of moments where Roode's title reign was about to slip through his fingers, but he kept fighting. And once they reached 2.5 minutes, Roode caught the overzealous challenger and took out his knee. After catching Roode with a reverse DDT, Styles thought he was going to win the title, but Roode had great ring awareness to get the rope break, and an angry Styles kept his foot on the gas and barely connected with a 450 splash as the clock struck 0. The match ended with another draw until Sting made his way out to the stage and declared that the next one to score a fall will be the definite winner. Taking advantage, Roode clipped the knee again and locked in a single leg Boston Crab to force Styles to eventually tap, and still the TNA World Heavyweight Champion Bobby Roode. Man, do I have some thoughts on what I just watched. If it wasn't for my fandom of AJ Styles and what Bobby Roode eventually became over time during this title reign, I would not have watched that Iron Man match again, nor the build to it. Now listen, there are indeed some matches in the history of professional wrestling sports entertainment that can be placed on the forgotten gem list, especially from TNA around this time period. But after sitting and processing the Iron Man match, the choice to give away the sudden death match on weekly TV instead of the actual pay-per-view just for Roode to stand tall anyway like he did at the pay-per-view, I can understand why this Ironman match is forgotten. Don't get me wrong, I understand the story that they were going for, Roode being desperate to keep his world title no matter what because he got tired of doing things the right way, even if he betrayed his friends and distanced himself from his family to do so. But like I said, the way they built to this match and the way the match was executed, if it did not involve AJ Styles or if I wasn't interested into this new version of Bobby Roode at the time, this match would have been a easy skip. Hell, if I'm honest, their match at Turning Point was slightly better in my opinion. But let's step over to cagematch.net right quick to see what are people's thoughts of this match. It's sitting at a decent 7.14 overall, with the comments being a little mixed. It definitely should be a little lower than 7, but seeing who's involved, I understand why it's at the number it's at. But luckily for me and you guys, this isn't the only retrospective that I will be doing on TNA during this time period, because I will be stepping back to a year prior, before Roode turned on Storm and right before Fortune became convoluted with about 8 people. I'm talking about revisiting the Beer Money versus Motor City Machine Guns Best of 5 series. I cannot wait to talk about that one. But if you don't agree with me and how I feel about this Ironman match, let's talk about it down below using the hashtag RoodeStyles. And when you're done there, make sure you smash that subscribe button with those notification bells turned on, and I'll catch you on the next one. Y'all be breezy.
It's still eat, sleep, flex, and repeat. Try to violate my peace, and I'm quick to hit delete. Got a V trigger coming for you, Twitter typing tough guys. Dealing with the real deal, now you better recognize. I'm tired of being humble, but they can't knock me out. Wreck everyone and leave, this what it's all about. I'm the man around here, yeah, I'm meant to prove it. They said it's ludicrous, I said they better move it. There's main event in my name, look how I'm getting these gains. I'm up, while they down, this ain't a game, it's just me, oos. Day one from the jump, but I'm still born a king. Top rope, took my bump straight to the facts. I don't need a filler, a true cerebral assassin, and ain't nobody realer.